Thank you for joining me for another iTWire video. Today I have with me Joe Kim. He is the CTO at SolarWinds. Welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me.
So I thought I'd start off just by asking you to remind us, those who don't know, briefly what does SolarWinds do for the market and its customers?
Sure. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with SolarWinds, what we are is we're a software company based out of Austin, Texas. But we do have offices all over the globe, including here in wonderful Sydney, Australia. And what we do is we provide software and capabilities to be able to help monitor and manage your applications from an end-to-end perspective. So think about being able to monitor your storage devices, your virtual machines, servers, applications, network, etc. And we actually do that for, provide those capabilities not only just for on-premise, but also for the cloud and those kind of tricky hybrid situations as well.
Which we'll talk about in a moment, with hybrid cloud, of course, being one of the big buzzwords of 2016. Also, I have spoken over the last couple of years to a number of your colleagues. I'll have links to those video interviews, a couple of them done in this same room with the beautiful Harbour Bridge backdrop behind you. Just before we do move on, can you tell us briefly a bit about yourself and maybe a couple of career highlights, and also what it's like to be the CTO of a major tech company?
Sure. So, I'm the global CTO for SolarWinds, and what that essentially means in a very kind of high level perspective is that I'm responsible from a technical strategy, direction, and architecture and design of all the products associated with SolarWinds. So we have over 35 products, again, in the different areas that I spoke about. This isn't my first time around the rodeo, as they say. I've been a CTO of other companies as well, including HP Software, just before joining SolarWinds, for different departments ranging from $1 to $2 billion in revenue.
Yeah, and you're in Australia, and you don't normally need any excuses to come down under. It's a great place.
Here.
We love that you're here, but why are you here? Are you just visiting the customers and staff?
For sure. So, obviously we have an office here, so I'm visiting the office, saying hello to the folks in the region. Also talking with customers, and we recently launched, and you can see a nice little board here, one of our major products, NPM, Network Performance Monitor version 12, and I'm here to talk a little bit about that with customers and press as well.
Sure. And actually, just quickly on that, I mean, just tell us a little bit about Network Performance Monitor 12 and just some of the industries that are taking it up.
Sure. So, it's interesting because previously, and this is really our flagship product around the networking space, we were fantastic in terms of being able to monitor and manage your on-premise infrastructure. So, things like switches and firewalls and routers, etc.
And put it all on a big dashboard.
Yeah, put it on a single dashboard. It's beautiful, right? You can do it in a single place. With that said, with the kind of proliferation of a lot of cloud use cases, they didn't come out and say, well, help us solve hybrid IT. It's not that direct.
Sure.
But, many of them said, hey, I'm having an issue with Salesforce.com, or having an issue with Office 365, etc. And all I can do is really ping and see if they're up and running.
Yeah.
Help me manage the situation, because, when Salesforce.com goes down, customers aren't calling Salesforce. They're calling us in the IT department.
Yeah.
And so when we did, sort of taking that problem set and trying to help customers, we went out and talked to a lot of, technologists and analysts, and the answer that was really out there was, not something that we wanted to provide to customers, because it was such a complex problem to handle. A lot of the complexity ended up showing in terms of how they deployed tool sets. And so previous, what they used to say is, hey, look, for on-premise use cases, use on-premise software and management products. For cloud use cases, use cloud-related software and management and monitoring products.
And this blends the two.
But nothing to really blend the two.
Bridge the gap.
Yeah, and so what we did was we identified that visibility gap that hybrid IT causes, which is what actually happens in the middle. So between my data center or my office where people are accessing that cloud service, what's actually going on in between? And so what we did was we created a solution called NetPath. And it's the first solution in the industry that's going to give you that path end-to-end from on-premise all the way out to the cloud, from a hop-by-hop analysis of what's going on in the WAN as well with your ISPs.
So you really nail down where it is in the whole network that the issues are occurring.
Yeah, exactly. And so, what we did was essentially not just try to provide a complex solution to a complex problem, but something that's super powerful to help manage this in a very simple way.
So companies in all industries must be interested in this software.
They're super interested, including obviously us at SolarWinds, but we just debuted this at Cisco Live a couple weeks ago, and customers were looking at it. Other folks that were in attendance were looking at it. They were like, "Holy wow! How are you even doing that?"
Yeah.
And so we obviously built some intellectual property in there to be able to do it. But at the highest level, we found a way to almost spoof application traffic over port 80 for you to be able to get to that application without having to open up pinholes or something like that. That might be a security concern.
Sure. So look, you've recently commissioned research into hybrid trends in Australia, and I'm sure globally, and we covered that, and I'll share a link to that in the text that accompanies this video. But you've spoken at a high level about some of these complexities and benefits in working in a hybrid model. Obviously, some of your advice to IT managers would be to take a look at Network Performance Monitor 12 from SolarWinds.
Yes.
But what else would your advice to IT managers grappling with these complexities be?
So, obviously as a kind of a technologist, I probably would talk to them all day about all the wonderful things that I would, really give as recommendations. But, in short form, I would really say three things.
Yep.
And some of that data you can get in the IT trends information that you're going to share. But if you look in there, although cloud is proliferating, 61% of the respondents regionally here in Australia said that it's unlikely that they're going to be moving everything out into the public cloud. And so at least for the foreseeable future, hybrid IT really is going to be the way that IT managers operate moving forward. And so the first recommendation is understand that that is really the direction moving forward. The second piece that I would really recommend as for folks to understand is that moving services or applications out into the cloud is really the first step. It's not the last step.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
And again, think about that Salesforce.com example. So you move the application pieces over to Salesforce.com. It's in a different data center. But when somebody has an issue with that, they're not going to be calling Salesforce.com.
That's right.
They're going to be calling you from an IT perspective. And so that visibility and finding the right tool sets and having the right processes is going to be really important. So don't think about it as the last step, it's the first step when you migrate that out. And then the third piece that I would put out there as a recommendation is don't think about what's happening in cloud and hybrid from a place of fear. Yes, it's very different. Some people are very scared that things are changing, but it also provides huge opportunities for IT to shine, right? With a lot of these buzzwords that are out there, IoT and the digitization of enterprise, etc.
Digital transformation is the big one.
Digital transformation.
Everyone's talking about that.
and what that really boils down to at the end of the day still is that the digital services, the technology services is so close to the business service now. It really provides that differentiation. It gives a chance for IT to be able to shine, right? Sure. And so having the right tool sets, having the right process will get you to be closer to business and really make business impact.
Now, before I ask you to analyze where this might all head over the next decade, let's quickly talk about security. It's a huge issue. We've heard of all these hack attacks, and I mean, there's even that Mr. Robot show, which I haven't had a chance to see the second season yet. It only just arrived. In fact, funnily enough, that you may have heard how that show predicted even the Ashley Madison hack in its last episode or something, which is quite incredible. But anyway, security, it's a huge concern. Everyone's worried about it. Everyone wants to know. Everyone gets these assurances from their tech guys, oh yeah, we're onto it. And then they get Kevin Mitnick to come in and he brings in a hard disk with all their secrets. They don't even know they've been hacked. So what's SolarWinds doing to help in this cause to keep its customers and all of their networks safe?
Yeah, so like if you look at the data, again, more than anecdotally, if you look at the IT trends data, 58% of the respondents said that actually security is one of the biggest challenges in terms of migration into public cloud or hybrid IT management. And I think some of that is kind of symptomatic of not having that visibility that you would get out of like a tool like npm12. Sure. And so I think if you want to be able to secure things, the first and most important thing is going to be how do I get that visibility?
You need the lay of the land, right? As the general.
Exactly. And think about how complex things are getting. You have now, data that's going to be sitting in your data center, data that's sitting in other people's data center that you may or may not have control over. Yeah. You now have multitudes of endpoints, right? I can get to that data that, again, may be in my data center or not in my data center from, my work computer or a phone that I own. The company doesn't even own the phone. Yeah. And so it's becoming super complex. And so how do I get that visibility is going to be important in terms of how you secure things. And npm12 will be able to help you with that. with capabilities like NetPath.
Can I just ask quickly as well, does NPM 12, can it drill down and tell you the sort of encryption that's being used to go between computers on your network or between a data center? And you might say, hey, I want to up that, for example.
Not at this point. And so what it does give you is a hop-by-hop analysis of the performance between the different elements in your local area network and the WAN before you hit that cloud service. But that will actually tell you a lot in terms of where the traffic might be coming from, for example, right? Yeah. If I have an internal service or if I have a cloud service where potential hacks are occurring.
Sure. And IT guys would know what sort of encryption their systems are using anyway, and if they want to choose something stronger, they can.
Exactly.
It's up to them.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, also internally within SolarWinds, outside of NPM, we have other products like, LEM and things like that to be able to help you from a security
and what does LEM stand for?
It's log and event management.
Okay. Cool, just for those who are watching.
Yeah.
So how do you see the industry evolving over the next decade? I mean, hybrid's the big buzzword now, but in 10 years it'll just be, already it's just the way of doing business.
I think moving forward, hybrid IT is really going to be how most IT people function, right? Even if you think about companies that have started out in the cloud, and I'll use like Dropbox as an example because that's a public example.
Yeah, yeah.
They started out on Amazon, but they're now starting to move a lot of that back into a data center that they're starting to create.
And as people would have read at the time, they did all of that on the fly. Nobody knew, and it was like changing the engines on your 747 as it's flying, as the famous saying goes.
Exactly. And so no matter if you're starting out in the cloud or if you've started on premise, hybrid is going to be the way that most people operate.
You don't see any unexpected developments, some holographic thing, or
well,
there's always things we don't know.
There's always things that's going to pop up, but
I guess SolarWinds will be there to manage it.
We're certainly going to be there, and from what I would say is, think using kind of NPM 12 as an example of how we are creating net new capability to give you that visibility from a hybrid perspective. There's other use cases that we'll likely go after as well, and it's just really a launch off point for us to be able to cover all the market changes that's likely going to be happening with sort of this hybrid movement.
Sure, I'm sure it's all on your roadmap, and you can't give all the secrets away.
I can't.
So look, as we get to the very end of the interview, or the last question, I always like to shake things up a little bit and change things. So just ask if you could please share what could be some of the best advice you've ever received to help you get where you are today.
Sure. Well, I've gotten lots of advices to get where I am today. But if I had to think of probably the best advice that I've received, it's, and I won't say who it is from,
sure, that's okay.
But it's, don't leave success to chance, right? Yeah. Don't let things succeed or fail accidentally, right? Have some meaning behind it. So if you are, for example, creating a strategy, get as much input as possible to make sure that your strategy is going to be solid. Once that strategy is set, make sure that you communicate, through the organization and touch everyone that's going to have to do something from an execution perspective to make sure that you've done everything in your power to succeed. And so that's probably the one that sticks out in the back of my mind.
Sure. It sounds like NPM 12. Make sure that every hop along the path has been checked out. Make sure that you got
exactly right.
Yeah.
If you
sound like a strategy for the software and a strategy for life.
Yeah, if I look at what happened with NetPath, right, this net new capability. If we were to have taken just the inputs from like the analyst community and some of the technologists that are that really know what they're doing, what they would have told you beforehand is, hey, look, again, use cloud products for cloud.
Yeah.
Use on-premise products for on-premise.
And never the twain shall meet, sort of thing.
Yeah, and you still have this gap in the middle, right? And so having a lot of that feedback really did help us, with creating some of these really, really cool capabilities for our customers.
Sure. So what would your final message be for iTWire viewers and readers and for your current and future customers?
Sure. So, I guess, I would conclude with, hybrid IT really is the way that IT is going to manage moving forward. And as part of that, and NPM 12 is a really good example, but, from a SolarWinds perspective, we're going to be being more aligned to some of those market dynamic changes to help our customers deal with some of the net new problems that's going to be coming up. And I would say in regards to NPM 12, again, with NetPath, first to market in terms of being able to get that visibility gap filled from a hybrid IT perspective. You can go try it out by going to SolarWinds.com, 30-day free trial. You don't have to pay for it, right, if you don't like it. But I think a lot of customers will see value in it right away.
Well, Joe, thank you very much. Good luck in Australia, and I hope to talk to you again in the future.
Great, thank you.